The World Championship on the line. There are 8 points available for victory. As we stare at the lights, green flag at the back means it is time to go racing. We've been held a very long time here. The green flag is flying. Are they waiting for the cars to get to the end of the pit lane? We're pausing. Here come the lights. That was an awfully long wait, but we're about to go racing. We're underway and sprinting for the final time this year. Good reaction time to the lights for both McLarens. Oscar Piastri has the lead. Is there an opportunity for Lando Norris to go around the outside? George Russell's in second. Yuki Tsunoda finds himself upper place. Fernando Alonso is down a position as Lando Norris hangs on to third. Piastri has the lead and George Russell is P2. Max Verstappen gets past Fernando Alonso. Yes, he does. And he will clear his teammates super quickly as he makes his way by. And he does so. Verstappen is up to P4.
Yeah, I think that was a compliant Yuki Tsunoda there, and Max was able to find his way onto the gearbox of Lando Norris, and it felt like everyone was a bit tentative as they ran into the first corner.
Yeah, perfect start for Verstappen though. Alonso was the driver that's lost out, often so good on the first laps, but he was shuffled out by Tsunoda, and I thought Tsunoda was halfway down the inside of Norris as well. He had a flying start, but has now given up the place as we expected, to his teammates sliding through turn 10.
Further back, Isaac Hadjar has made a couple of positions. He's putting the pressure on Carlos Sainz at the moment. Sainz in the Blue Williams is the last point scorer. The top 8 score here, and it was well behaved in the opening corners of the sprint race.
Car's visibly fast, obviously not running anywhere near the amount of fuel we'll have in the Grand Prix tomorrow, but this is a challenging racetrack, and we saw that telltale sign of instability on the back of Max Verstappen, who said that as he had to carry the setup from qualifying, this was about survival.
Yeah, he wasn't enjoying it yesterday. With a bit more fuel on the in the car, it can change the balance slightly. You can put you into a slightly different window in terms of your cornering speeds and what's going on there.
Thinking about the late lunge and looking for the move to the inside. 9th position, Isaac Hadjar. If you have the half look, it does interrupt your momentum off the corner. Left-hand side of your screen, the race order. Oscar Piastri ahead of George Russell. The top 3 as they were, up a couple of positions. 1 gained in a straight fight against Fernando Alonso, and Yuki Tsunoda jumping out of the way in the opening sector of the race.
Yeah, Verstappen was struggling a lot with understeer in a lot of the lower speed corners. He ran off the road at turn 4 in sprint quali in SQ3. But you can change the balance in between. You can change the front wing angle. There's plenty you can still do more from the cockpit. And at least on this first lap and a half, he looks pretty racy here within the DRS window of Lando ahead, who's not within a second of George Russell.
Yeah, he is definitely running it hard behind Lando, but missing the apexes, crucially, as he's in that dirty air. And this will certainly be taking whatever life there is in those tyres, so I guess he's kind of going all in early, being that DRS and trying to get a pass done.
Those were the words he used pre-event, all in to try and win a 5th consecutive Formula 1 World Championship. He knows he's got to stay within the 1 second window if he's going to have a chance of passing his rival for the title.
It's close now, 6/10. It's quite a long straight down the main straight as well. Not really close enough as they hit the brakes, but it's tempting.
He's trying to be large in the mirrors, DC.
Yeah, just not a big enough braking zone there, is it, to really run that overspeed down the inside, especially on a quick car like Lando. And even if he did manage to get the car alongside, Lando can run that slightly wider line, and then he's on the right piece of track for the following corner.
Wouldn't love it if I'm Norris. Wouldn't love having Max on the prowl right behind me straight away. You'd think with 3 cars between them on the, or 2 cars between them, 3 places on the grid difference at the start of the race, he might have had a bit more of a buffer, but looking behind and seeing Verstappen there, remember the history of these two as well. Incidents last year are plenty. Mexico particularly, Max is not afraid of some big lunges, and we'll see what happens to the exit of the corner, and Lando will remember that as well.
The average speed of the corners around here so high though. Great perspective of the cars roaring by. This is Charles Leclerc, driver who lost 4 places at the start of the race, and once again he's through the gravel. Once again we have seen the Ferrari struggling, both drivers struggling to rotate the car. Remember what we heard from Pirelli yesterday, with the gravel cutting the tyres. Ferrari will be monitoring that with the sensors.
Yeah, look, having 2 Ferraris running outside the top 10, that's a sort of cusp of acceptability. I know the points don't go that far in sprint, but you're on the wrong half of the grid to have that prancing horse strapped to the front of the car.
Norris had DRS this lap and he needed it. Look how close Verstappen is. Lando was wide of the apex at the first corner, probably trying to carry in that speed to make sure that Max doesn't scare him again with a look down the inside. And certainly Verstappen looking quick. He's done this so many times this year. Go really aggressive in the first 5 laps and then settle into where he is. And he is certainly doing that again as they come now through the middle sector.
It's actually amazing. He's able to stay as close as he is to Lando by basically missing every apex, as far as I can see, by, you know, a good sort of foot or so. But he's doing enough to stay within slipstreaming distance, but it just doesn't lend itself to the big overtake here.
Plenty of understeer there as he's washing at turn 10.
That was the complaint yesterday for Max Verstappen, that the car was bouncing around, but he is keeping his rival for the title under pressure within the window. The gap is 0.7 of a second. We're about to head on to lap number 5. Oscar Piastri leads this race by 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, well, there's nothing really they could have done other than pressure. You know, they can't adjust the springs on the car, can't adjust the wings. The electronic devices are not really going to do much for bouncing.
They will get that opportunity after this race to reset things and to take everything they've learned. We saw to devastating effect what the setup change was able to produce in Brazil when Max Verstappen went from the pit lane to the podium the last time we had a sprint race weekend. 1.3 seconds, the gap at the front. Let's go back to the start of the sprint race.
It was a clean start both sides of the grid, actually. There was no clear advantage on the left side. You could see Yuki definitely getting stuck in about, and that allowed Max to try and run that wide line around the outside that gave him the inside for turn 2. You can see how wide Fernando Alonso goes. So on board with Lando, a little bit of wheel spin in the second phase of the gear shift there, Julian, and almost contact with George Russell.
Yeah, he didn't need that, did he? I think both of them looking for that slipstream we talked about just before, trying to tuck in behind Oscar.
This is Max Verstappen, who gained a couple of places, so ahead of Fernando Alonso, and then Yuki Tsunoda was fully aware of his duties at this point, and his teammate gets to the inside.
So for the last couple of laps, Norris has had DRS behind Russell. I don't think he's been within a second, but he must have just got there, I guess, before at the detection point, before the final corner. Still just over a second away, 1.2 seconds. They're lapping it at the same pace. I can only assume that Norris is quick enough through the fast corners, which is where Russell was losing his time for a sprint pole yesterday.
It doesn't feel like sprint, it feels like management. You know, I know this is a fast circuit, you want that clean over.
I don't know if Max can get Norris, but Piastri is winning this one for sure.
And it just kind of feels as if maybe there's a bit more management of these tyres than maybe we were expecting for the sprint race.
Oh, a replay. Max
in 4th position, 3rd in the points
jumping around the curve.
Going into this race, using
That was
all
not
of the road and a bit
the
more,
best for his
sending the
floor.
plank of the car over the curve in his chase of Lando Norris.
I think we saw that on board with him on the last lap, running a bit wide, just washing with that understeer, and it is that the final sector is really difficult to follow through. There's just
Norris
so many
now
fast corners around.
a second ahead of Max.
Sweeping in to this trio here, 12, 13 and 14.
Lap 6 of 19.
Not flat out quite in qualifying, and certainly not with some fuel on board doing consecutive laps here.
Yeah, look, it's a fantastically fast racetrack. Grand Prix cars, I always feel, come alive above 100 miles an hour.
Who you think
But as we were discussing off air, Julian, before the start of the sprint, physically this is going to be one of the tough races of the year for them.
Mandated rule from Pirelli for the Grand Prix tomorrow that you cannot go beyond 25 laps for any set of tyres. Lando Norris cannot shake off Max Verstappen is a fair summary of the entire championship and the race that we've had so far. The gap is 0.7 of a second.
And actually, the good thing for Max is he can just attack Lando.
Yeah, that gap was 0.8.
It's really bad. It's like really crackly.
Yeah, same as yours.
Yeah, they're not in a happy place right now, so it's funny how when you're leading everything's lovely. When you're not quite where you want to be, then yeah, become a bit more critical. Just looking at the gaps, Antonelli, Alonso, I think we might see some action there. It'll be very telling, actually, because there should be more of an offset in performance between Antonelli's Mercedes and Alonso's Aston in race trim. And if he can't get a pass done, then that kind of tells us the big story of this race circuit.
Yeah, Alonso's dropping away from those ahead. The nice luxury Verstappen's got is his teammate behind. So for probably the first time this year, Tsunoda can help Verstappen. Okay, he's let him through on the first lap, but he can provide a bit of a rear gun if Max finds tyre trouble by pushing too hard. He's more than a second away for the first time than from Lando. That's a strange radio message back from GP, isn't it? It's almost like saying, well, your radio's bad too. Max hasn't dialed in the radio.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit of tit for tat. They're like, are we allowed to say an old married couple? Are you allowed to say that?
Well, they certainly are like that, so yeah. I think that's a fair description. They've been together for a long time. Here's a chance for Charles Leclerc.
Actually, I was just going to tee up. Leclerc was about 0.4 of a second before coming onto the straight. And I was curious to see, would Behrman, and maybe a future Ferrari driver, with a Ferrari engine in the back of that Haas, would he be...
Max is going almost half a second slower per lap now.
Exactly. I try to find the nice way
that's it for the race.
Putting that forward, but the evidence of that would suggest no.
Constantly jumping, not only bouncing, is the team radio message.
Antonelli might
for us to
take Alonso for
on
6th,
that 8
I think.
of 19. It's Piastri and a new fastest sector of the sprint race so far for George Russell, but the gap is at 1.9 seconds. And a very, very similar gap between second and third, and it's
who's your
into a
favorite
gap
for
between
tomorrow's
third
race?
and fourth. Last
the
point scorer
championship
at the moment,
overall.
Carlos Sainz. Very happy with the team trying something different and aggressive, and at the moment it's going to reward him with 1 point.
That's a bit of body work.
The car getting loose, these cars running over the curbs, and a bit of debris clear of the Williams.
Yeah, difficult to kind of see exactly what that is. It doesn't obviously look like an end plate or anything, but maybe we'll get to see afterwards. But just a question actually, Julian, while you tell us what you think that bodywork might be. We heard Verstappen say the car's bouncing and jumping. Well, for me, they're kind of the same family. What is the difference between bouncing and jumping?
So bouncing was yesterday. It's now been upgraded to jumping.
When you run out of adjectives for the same problem, it's still happening. I think it's please sort my car out. I think that debris, it looked to me like there might have been a bit of the floor missing on Hadjar's car at the back. I don't know, I'm not saying that was it, but as he came through there, I wasn't sure if there was a slight bit that had come off. He ran over the curbs aggressively yesterday at turn 8, got his lap time deleted, but it could just simply be just vibration with all this load. We talk about the tyres and the cuts and everything on the tyres that has mandated 25 laps on each set, but that can have effects on carbon components as well.
As it stands in the championship, Lando Norris losing 2 points to Oscar Piastri, but gaining 1 over Max Verstappen. It would, this result, allow Lando Norris to win the Grand Prix tomorrow and become world champion if it stands like this.
Was hopping in your dictionary when you were driving? The car's hopping?
No, not really. Maybe jumping if it was locking the rear axle, but I don't remember a car ever
I don't know, as much as I would like
drive quickly enough to get into that threshold. As here comes Charles Leclerc and Behrman.
I think Piastri
would
be a worthy champion
Behrman saying,
anyway.
No, I'm not playing that ball.
Lewis Hamilton
I'm playing my own race,
stuck
which
in
is
18th.
refreshing.
Gabriel Bortoleto gained
the
a
race.
couple of places.
He's not doing well.
Where he started.
Only Alpines are slower than him.
And there's just not enough of a braking zone into the first
and even
turn
Stroll is
of this
faster.
racetrack originally designed
Something's wrong with that car, man.
Motorbike racing, which is why we have all of the long corners and extreme runoff as well. Completely different challenge to what we had 1 week ago. This triple header to close out the season, and at the moment Oscar Piastri is doing what he's done before a couple of times around this circuit. He's looking for a hat-trick of sprint wins today. Piastri won his first first race of any description when he won the sprint race here in 2023. Went on to be a Grand Prix winner in 2024, and he's been a contender for the World Championship in 2025. Taking a couple of points out of Lando Norris with this result as it stands. Lap 11 we move on to. The gap is 1.9 seconds for Piastri, who was a relieved figure when speaking to the media yesterday to perform when his rival
Track
could
limits
not.
for Antonelli.
And, Norris made a mistake on his first run in SQ3 and didn't get the car placement right for the final run. Went off at the 16th and final corner, chasing that sprint pole. And we're referring to sprint qualifying at this stage because it's going to be so decisive. Where you go with the setup in qualifying later on is going to be defining, because it is very, very difficult, even if you're 0.4 of a second away, to get by, like we've seen with Charles Leclerc up against Ollie Bennett.
Starting to
So
see
Ross have
some
been told there's
degradation
some
on
deg
other cars.
cars, which will be why they're in management phase a bit throughout the race.
For Russell there.
Follow, you can control the pace.
Oh!
Leclerc again.
It's been like that all weekend
Charles.
long. From first practice, saw it as well.
Black and
he's
white
getting
flag for
closer.
Tsunoda.
In the background, he's wide
Oh my
moment.
God.
Off the road goes Liam Lawson. He'll clear him, but he was off the track as he did so. Lawson just gets on with it. And that
Lawson
wide
overtook
moment for the Ferrari, capitalised
Leclerc.
upon by Liam Lawson, currently up to 13th.
He's just going to keep that, is he?
Yeah, just don't worry about that.
Yeah, I think
Have to
unfortunately
give back the position or
that'll
probably
fall
get the
very firmly
penalty.
into gaining an advantage, so you'll need to give that back. But yeah, this is.
I think it's
you
safe to
can
say this isn't
almost
one of
see
the most
the frustration in the way that Leclerc's driving.
exciting
and
sprints we've had
it's
this
clearly
season.
way out of balance to be making.
Sorry. It's looked out of sorts, just struggling with some big understeer, but off in the rear, just stepping out on him. Something out in the really high speed as well. Lawson surely has to get out of the way.
Lawson was told to give the position back. He will do so. Good team
Lawson
management
gives
from
back
the
the
Racing Force
position on
team. That's
lap
the right thing to do
19.
to avoid a 5-second penalty. They're not in the points at the moment. Only the top 8 score. Worth saying,
Sainz
Yuki
is
Tsunoda has been
in
shown the black and white
8th,
flag for track
the
limits.
last point.
And
in the
after that,
sprint.
he's been pinged for another track limit violation. He could be in trouble in terms of a penalty. This is back to what happened to Charles Leclerc when he ran off the road and then got into a battle with Liam Lawson.
Yeah, just finding that gravel on turn 4, and then he couldn't get the car turned in for 5. He's going to defend the inside, be ahead of the apex, and then that's why Lawson has to give up the place. Rude but fair from Leclerc. The problem Ferrari have got here is this is completely miserable. But Hamilton has changed the car. He ran a higher downforce yesterday to try and find something after a really mediocre free practice as well. So he's done that. He started from the pit lane. So did Stroll. They're just running around together at the back of this train. So when you're in that, now Hamilton's running at a 1:26.7, so he's 2 seconds off what Norris has just done as his personal best on the last lap.
In the background, a wide moment gives an opportunity to Kimi Antonelli. Fernando Alonso trying to ring the pace there.
Now
For the driver
on
who's been
Alonso.
on the podium in the last 2 Grand Prix,
Taking the position.
capitalises on that error and gets
Moving
past
up
Fernando
to
Alonso.
6th.
Alonso hasn't scored points
Alonso
in the
7th
last
now.
3. Perhaps you're seeing why there. A car that's come good in the last couple of rounds, getting by and moving up to P6.
Well, that's very telling, isn't it? That it's taken a mistake for the car in front to really be in an overtake window. And, well, that is that view there of Fernando. Big understeer, reminiscent of what we saw with Lando Norris in qualifying yesterday.
Final turn of the racetrack. Dipping a wheel on the gravel, costing him the momentum all the way down the main straight. Kimi Antonelli improves the position from where he started in the race.
So that's another point for Mercedes.
Yuki Tsunoda has a 5-second penalty for track limits.
Penalty for Tsunoda.
4 times in this sprint race he has gone beyond the white lines, and Tsunoda will not return to the points with that penalty.
Oh, that's just not good enough from Tsunoda, is it? Running really well, great start, perfect team game. It'll cost him a position, 2 positions at the
Tsunoda.
moment.
Yeah, he might get 1
They've
point.
only done
5th
40
now.
laps. How have you gone off? You know the rules by now.
Yeah, that is definitely a bit sloppy. We've not
2.6
seen
advantage over Antonelli.
exactly
He's going to lose that
where
position.
he was doing that, but
Lap 14 out of 19.
yeah, just sort of caps what has been a difficult season for him. A little bright light of performance in qualifying yesterday.
Lance Stroll appears to be darting into the pits. Yeah, best moment of Yuki Tsunoda's season when he's been a Red Bull driver, DC, with that performance. And Max Verstappen on the back foot, not getting that first run. And Aston Martin receiving Stroll, who was running in that train. Hamilton, Gasly and Colapinto all gain a position.
Wow, he
Oh,
dumped the clutch too early there.
Oh my God.
So lucky the
Botch
wheel
pit
guns
stop
were
for
off. The
Stroll.
car was still in the air, and the driver wanted to
And
go.
now
You
the
saw the
moment
rear
when
axle
Tsunoda
spin up.
went.
So this is Tsunoda. This is us. We're going to get the chance to see
Oh
the
my
track
God.
limits. Yeah, look, understand what he's trying to do there. Give himself a better run through the turn. But that's been highlighted in practice. Drivers have been pulled off on it.
Such a rookie mistake, I think.
Yeah. If that was Monaco and there was a metal barrier, he would have wiped the corners off the side of the car.
Oscar Piastri onto lap 15 of 19, trying to return to the front. Piastri tied with Max Verstappen for points. Last a winner in Formula One back in the Netherlands. That day, he was 34 points in the lead of the Formula One World Championship. He's seen that advantage eroded, but it's looking like a third sprint victory in a row at this venue for Oscar Piastri. He's got an advantage of 2.3 seconds. Lando Norris was under big pressure earlier on Max Verstappen, from Max Verstappen. Now he's putting the pressure on George Russell in the final stages. Degradation was reported by Marcus Dudley, George Russell's race engineer, to his driver, and it looks like the Mercedes is dropping back. Can Norris minimise the damage, with Piastri currently taking 2 points out of it?
Yeah, of those top runners down to Antonelli, then Russell is marginally the slower.
Second.
Tsunoda is a little bit behind him, so let's just see where he
Russell,
finishes
to
this
be
lap.
honest, it's going to be easy pickings. I don't think Russell will even
out of him the last lap around.
defend against
So he's sensing there's an opportunity.
Just letting you listen in there to the fearsome speed of turns 12, 13 and 14. 16-turn racetrack that we're heading to. On to another lap, and the driver's predictions that it was all going to come down to the opening laps have proven true. We've had a change for Antonelli getting past Alonso, and Alonso going through that gravel track has brought gravel onto the racing line. There's concern about the gravel cutting the tyres from last night, and a bit of a vibration is the radio message from Oscar Piastri, reporting it back to the McLaren team.
I think.
Well, we've not seen any under rotations. It's not a track really that you see a lot of that, so it could just be a bit of pickup as the tyres wear.
Lance Stroll still continuing on the soft tyre. He's going out there now at the very back. You're looking at Esteban Ocon on the left-hand side. You're looking at Hulkenberg chasing Ocon on the left-hand side. And the crowd watching the final stages of the sprint racing for 2025. You see, that's the corner where Yuki Tsunoda's just been opening the steering too much. He's gone beyond the white line on 4 occasions. He had the warning. He's gone again, and it will be a 5-second penalty. At the moment, that's going to drop him down, and it's going to be close with Fernando Alonso, but it would, at the moment, only cost him 1 position to Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, frustrating though, after what's been his most impressive qualifying for, well, his whole time, I think, at Red Bull Racing. So it's not the day to be making a mistake like that, but it is now locked in, and it's a bit of a stalemate, isn't it? It's just a stalemate of running in the clean air that you can have, being a second and a half or so behind the car in front.
Yeah, as the drivers predicted, it was pretty uniform after sprint qualifying. See the gravel just off the racing line there, but not by much. There's been a black and white warning flag shown to Kimi Antonelli. So Yuki Tsunoda's hoping that Antonelli goes beyond the white line one more time, and those penalties offset each other. Tsunoda can stay where he is in 5th place. Antonelli having to drive the last couple of laps between the white lines. Lando Norris's momentum to the back of George Russell has been arrested, and he finds himself 1.7 seconds off the back. Crucially, ahead of Max Verstappen to gain a point on the Dutch driver, but lose a couple against his teammate. That has looked to be the scenario for a while now, as Piastri will begin to tick off the laps, remember, with a vibration reported to the team.
Yeah, as he's ticking them off though, lap times are pretty even across the top 4. 24.5 Piastri, 24.5 Russell, 24.6 Norris, and then 24.5 Verstappen. So they've this far into the Grand Prix, they've found a sort of degradation lap time that means that basically whoever is leading at the first corner can control the race, which we have seen that at other Grand Prix, but it really highlights the importance of getting qualifying right.
Penultimate lap of the sprint season, and Oscar Piastri continuing on with a great buffer of 2.6 seconds. Max Verstappen, if it finishes like this, will need to finish ahead of Lando Norris to remain part of the championship picture and send it to his side. Oliver Behrman earlier in the race was racing very, very closely with Charles Leclerc. Now he has gone through the gravel and he is ahead, but he's only ahead by 0.6 of a second. So Leclerc with the early error through the gravel, and then Behrman later on. So they are struggling with the cars, even in this shorter race. In the Drivers' Championship, you can see what it's going to do. Lando Norris, 396 points. Oscar Piastri, 374. Max Verstappen, 371. It would mean for Lando Norris, winning the Grand Prix would make him the 35th champion of the world in Formula One history. That's the scenario he was looking for at the start of the day. Remains in your control to win and become the champion, and it's time for the final lap, the final 3.3 miles, 5.4 kilometers of a race that Oscar Piastri has controlled throughout, and it does appear that Kimi Antonelli has had another track limit strike after being shown the black and white warning flag. That's your last warning.
But
if
he will
that's
not
the case,
lose
it
the
could
position.
be an incoming 5-second penalty to protect Yuki Tsunoda's P5.
Interesting, Piastri
but
on
Tsunoda
that lap
will not
there,
lose.
he's gone half a second quicker,
so
found a half a second of performance and is continuing to go purple in the first sector, so really using this as a test as well as a win.
Be careful with this understeer not to run on track.
Man, I hope the race tomorrow is
both McLaren drivers, I can tell you, have been told about staying away from the curbs and being reminded about track limits. Talking of track limits, Kimi Antonelli's time is not beyond the white lines of the race. Race control have changed their mind on that one. Oscar Piastri, it's been such a tough run. He's seen his championship lead evaporate.
Piastri
in Mexico City, it transferred to Lando Norris, but this has always been a happy hunting ground. He will return to first place in a race for the first time since the Dutch Grand Prix. 3 sprint victories in a row and still a contender for the title. Oscar Piastri wins the sprint in Qatar to stay part of the championship fight. It's George Russell in second, Lando Norris in third. Max Verstappen will lose a point in the championship battle, and then it's Yuki Tsunoda over the line. When the penalty is applied, Kimi Antonelli will be promoted to 5th place, and then it will be Fernando Alonso, and the last point scorer will be Carlos Sainz. Hadjar chasing him across the line by 0.8 of a second, but it is Alonso and Sainz.
All 3 of them
Tsunoda dropping the 1 place after that 5-second penalty, and Oscar Piastri taking the sprint win in the end by 4.9
separated by a point or 2
seconds.
Man, that would
the sprint
be
racing in 2025 is done.
Crazy.
2 points out of his
that would be a crazy last race of the season.
Welcome back.
Anyway, how did you like the race? Did you like the stream? Tell me more. Leave a comment.
Well, I'm trying to sort of place in my mind what did I think about that sprint race.
And what did you think about that sprint race, DC?
I came in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to the comm box.
Okay, that's the checkered flag. Very nicely done, Oscar.
Very nicely done, Oscar.
Nicely done, everyone.
So, okay, thanks for watching.
Let's keep it going.
I'll be back
well,
tomorrow,
that's reassuring
I guess.
for all the Oscar Piastri fans that the car...
Thank you. And have a good